On this upcoming attractions, a special announcement, we're moving, plus an interview with Kendall and Vera Whelpton, the filmmakers behind the Sleepless Unrest. Also, we got trailers for Malignant, Demonic, Army of Thieves, Jackass, Dune, there's a whole bunch more. All this and more on Midnight Double Feature. Welcome back to another upcoming attractions. And let's just get right into it. This is the last one you're going to see on Midnight Double Feature. I wish I prepared something to say about this. But long story short, we're moving in a sense. I'm taking the show and it's leaving the Midnight Double Feature train station. I made it sound like so aggressive. It's not. The boys have been super supportive. Thank you, especially to you, Zoheb, for... I was trying to figure it out. I think there's been about 100 episodes of upcoming attractions, but that's not including special features. It's hard to say, but you invited me into your home for episode, I think it was 3, as a guest, and then you kept dragging me back, and then eventually I got addicted, and I couldn't say no. So thank you so much. But for everybody else, you'll know what's going on. The same show, a few things switching up, but essentially the same show. If you want to follow us, nothing is live yet. Nothing will go live for a few weeks probably, but the social media accounts are active. If you look up Upcoming Attractions Podcast or Upcoming Attractions on Facebook or on Upcoming Attractions Pod on Instagram and TikTok and I think Twitter. If not, it'll be live soon. And you can follow it there. There's going to be a few new things. I'm building a whole new team. And all I can say is thank you so much to everybody, but especially Zoheb for about 3 glorious years, I'd say. And that'll continue on in a new form. I think that's the main thing I got to say.
Hi guys, I'm good. How are you, Matt? I'm just like you fucking just jumped right into it, dude. And I'm just like, oh, all right, awesome. I guess we're just, there's no foreplay or anything, or no introduction to your co-host. Thank you so much for that, by the way.
Fuck yeah, I don't know how to do these things. I've never left a show before. I thought you'd jump in, but as I was talking, I was just like, fuck, I've dug a hole and it's out there now, and I don't know what to do. And should I wait until? I don't know. But how you been, dude?
I've been good. Let me just go ahead and supplement what you just laid down. So the upcoming attractions portion of Midnight Double Feature is moving. Matt is taking the complete reins of it. With whoever you decide to bring on, Matt. Upcoming attractions will no longer be a part of Midnight Double Feature, but that doesn't mean that there won't be any collaboration or that Matt is not a part of the team anymore, because you absolutely are. You're a part of, like, you're on the goddamn poster, right? on the goddamn icon. So Matt's gonna be joining us for bonus episodes. Matt's gonna be joining us for feature presentations. If we have any interviews or what have you, Matt's gonna be on there too. So Matt's definitely still a part of the squad. It's just, for me, I'm going to go ahead and explain, I guess, why the change, because, it is a big change. Like you said, Matt, we've been doing this show for 3+ years, and this is a massive change. Not only to, I guess, statistics, our download numbers, what have you, but also to our lives. We've been sitting down for pretty much every fortnight for 3 years and recording this particular entry into the podcast. So it's going to be a bit of a change. So the reason for the change is primarily me. Well, mostly me. Well, all of me, rather. So I was the one who suggested the change. I came to you and I said, hey, look, man, these episodes aren't particularly thrilling me anymore. I've changed as a person, I think, from when we launched this podcast. I used to be someone who saw something and immediately wanted to talk about it. He was really excited about, pretty much everything. And I kind of wanted to vocalize my thoughts on it. And that was upcoming attractions, right? That's where Upcoming Attractions was born before you jumped on, Matt. I pitched Upcoming Attractions to Colin because we started off as just a feature presentation podcast, and then Upcoming Attractions came out soon after that. So, Upcoming Attractions was born when I went to Colin and I said, hey, man, I kind of wanted to, cover the news, right? Like, I mean, one of my favorite podcasts of all time is Fat Man on Batman, as it was called back then.
Yeah.
Now it's Fat Man Beyond. And in that show, it's Kevin Smith and Mark Bernard, and they're talking about the news, they're having a great time. And for the last 3 years, I've enjoyed it totally. It's just, I think now I'm finding myself a bit more reserved whenever news comes out about things. I'm finding myself, and that's not. I think that's also, it's 50% character growth, hopefully on my part, but also 50% on the fact that the news cycle just doesn't stop these days, and it's so exhausting. It absolutely just kind of like takes a lot out of me. So, when we sit down to record these episodes lately, I'm finding myself there's a little bit of fatigue going on. And I always said at the start of this podcast that if there's fatigue, then I'm, it's not worth it, in terms of, affecting my personal life. So, I'm glad that, you took it in stride. You didn't take it as like, hey, let me go ahead and try and change his mind. You were like, let me go ahead and take this portion of the podcast and build my own thing, which is great, which is absolutely what we want to encourage, because we're all about, I mean, look, we're an independent podcast, so we don't have sponsorship, we don't have advertising. We're all about kind of like nurturing each other and shit like that. So, look, this is a bittersweet moment, I think. It's not all doom and gloom. I will hopefully make an appearance on your podcast.
Nah, fuck off. Nah, of course. If you're not in one of the first few episodes, I'll be very sad.
But yeah, I mean, look, again, it's just one of those things that eventually you start to just become a different person. And, Colin and I have a great time on feature presentations. They're on weekends. I get to sit down, day drink, right? Because we're in lockdown. So I day drank the last episode.
Doing it right now.
Yeah, right. There you go. Whereas like these episodes are on weekdays, right? And we can't really schedule them any other time, right? Because we have very busy lives. So, it's just kind of one of those things that, out of necessity, this wasn't really a viable option anymore. But look, as Midnight Double Feature continues to grow, this is kind of like one step back, and hopefully we're going to take 2 steps forward, because we're going to put a lot more focus into our feature presentations. We're going to put a lot more focus into our bonus episodes for members. Midnight Double Feature, the main feed, will now become a fortnightly episode podcast. It will no longer be weekly. And also, so the off weeks, we're going to be doing our bonus episodes as well to appease members.
So it won't be fortnightly for you. It will just be fortnightly for the listeners,
right?
Because you're
the listeners,
guys.
Right.
It should really be said. Zoheb is a workhorse. He I don't know if this has ever been publicly stated in an obvious way, but it should be. Zoheb is more than just the glue of Midnight Double Feature. He runs all the social media pretty much by himself. He edits. He's on pretty much every episode. I think there's been like out of close to 300 episodes. You might have missed maybe 4 ever, like less than 10 for sure. And you edit every single one. I think there's maybe 1 episode you didn't edit, I think, at most. Yeah, you are without a doubt the driving force behind it all. And understandably, when you said this, I wasn't surprised, because burnout would probably happen eventually. And the way that we do upcoming attractions is they are on weeknights. So by the time while we're doing this episode, we've literally just come off from work. We're probably both pretty hungry. I'm often snacking in between, or you're having a drink or whatever. It does take a lot, man. And salute to you for your hustle, for your grind. It's so much work. there's been times where I've been like, let's hire an intern, and you're just like, it's all right, I got it. I'm like, you're going to kill yourself. So like, and I think it's like, props to you as well for, I remember you told me a story a while ago, like I think early days of the podcast, and you were talking about a podcast that you like, and you said, right before they ended or they changed their format or something, you said that you could tell one of the hosts wasn't into it anymore, and you said it was becoming obvious to you, and you did say to me you wanted to make sure that never happened on the show. And the reason I didn't try and change your mind is like we've been friends for over 5 years. We've been on the podcast together for over 3. Probably, I think I met you like what 2014, 2015 maybe. So definitely over 5 years. But yeah, I've learned like it's hard to change your mind, and there's no point in trying to change your mind, especially if you don't want to do it. Like it's the pod.
I am pretty stubborn.
Yeah, but also on top of that, like, what am I going to do? Say fuck you, keep doing the show, and have you be miserable every time? Like that's just right. Yeah. And so what I wanted to do is like I thought about it. Like I saw you messaged me. I didn't reply for a while, and I just sat on it, and I just thought, I'm like, I'm the type of person who tries to turn problems into opportunities, like I'm very big on when one door closes, another opens. So I was like, where's that open door? And I thought about it, and I sat on it, and like, what would be the best outcome where everybody's happy? And something I thought was, I would like to keep doing the show. And I thought, what would that be like? And then I thought, well, there's some things I like to do differently as well. But I couldn't do it alone. I knew I'd have to build a team. And so that's what I was like, can I have the show? and so just take it in another direction and do my own thing. And I was expecting you to like not be on board for that at first. And to my surprise, you've been actually, and sorry, not to my surprise, I am very grateful that you've been super supportive. Not just you, the team as well. Like we have a little group chat when I posted in, Colin and Danny were straight away, were like, okay, let's talk logistics. How do we do this? And I honestly think we're in the best case scenario for everybody. I think everyone involved in MDF should be happy. And what I wanted to make sure is with the new version of the show, that this new version is, I'm hoping that the listeners will feel like not much has changed. Obviously, there's going to be different people talking. There's some other ideas I have to bring to the show, which will make it a little bit different as well. But I'm hoping it doesn't feel like you guys have missed out on too much either. I'm hoping that everyone who's enjoyed the show so far will follow us into this new venture as Upcoming Attractions, as its own independent podcast which is independent from another independent podcast. But yeah, man, I'm really grateful to you guys, and like you invited me in this.
Thank you for the kind words, man. I mean, like I just I wanted to throw some your way as well, but like like this was when we started Upcoming Attractions, it was just Colin and I doing it separately. Like we're just kind of talking to ourselves, and we would send each other subjects, and like we'd just be kind of like sitting in like a little antechamber by ourselves and recording the episode. Like there was one episode where I asked Colin to talk about Above and Beyond because they released a documentary, and he's like, "Oh, I've never heard of them, so I think they're good." But they're my favorite like DJs. But like, and then you kind of came on, and I was like, man, like Matt would be kind of like perfect for this because he kind of lives in this world. Like he loves news, he loves he loves speculation, he loves rumors. And then I was like, very early on, Matt, we're not going to talk about rumors. I don't want rumors on the podcast. Man.
Looking back, I didn't expect this episode to come so sentimental, but I'm loving it. You got me thinking. I
think it's going to have to be.
Oh yeah, fuck. Fuck the entire agenda. We'll just talk now. Something that happened early on, and I think we had to find our groove, and is what to cover in Upcoming Attractions. Because at first, I know I definitely was like this. I'm not sure if you were the same. I think you were at some level, but not as crazy as me. I was like, we have to cover everything. It was like every single trailer needs to be covered. And that led to very long episodes. They were very tiresome. And sometimes we're talking about shit we didn't like, but I was always like, oh, what if there's one audience member out there somewhere who's hoping we talk about, I don't know, some bullshit direct-to-DVD thing that no one gives a fuck
and I'm
about.
just like, fuck him. I don't give a shit about that person.
Well, something I think we learnt along is it's not about, I think, the best stuff, the best content with content creation here. It's not talking about what we like the most all the time, but it's also not about covering whatever the fuck there is to hit some demographic. It's about what will create the best content. So I was always like, I think still one of the things I don't think we ever fully perfected was what happens when there's a review and only one of us have seen, because then it's just one person talking, others like, okay. But then I've always tried to be like, well, how can I make it a conversation? How can I ask questions and that? And the best topics we talk about is when it's like, we've both seen the trailer, we've both talked about it. That was another point. I remember at one point we were talking to each other and we were like, all right, before we talk about trailers, we have to make sure we've both seen them. Because there was a point where sometimes we'd be like, I saw this, did you? No. Okay, I'll talk about it. So it's amazing over the time, the stuff we've learnt and how to develop the show into what it is. Like, it's not just a structure. There's actually been a lot of work when we've developed it over the years, which I think, we've done a pretty good job.
Yeah, I'd say so. Just kind of like, looking in hindsight, it's it's tough to be. I'm someone who is kind of self-critical. Like, I kind of want to look back and be like, man, I don't know about that, or I don't know about this. But I think, in hindsight, looking at it as a whole, I think we did a decent enough job. Like, talking about trailers coming up and, movies that were out in cinemas, because like, I don't think you get that with a lot of podcasts, independent podcasts, where people are not being sent screeners by studios, like, where people are not being sent, in direct conversation with studios, who are being sent to cinemas to watch the movies and then review them on podcasts. We don't do that. We've never done that, right? We've never done, well, until recently, right? I mean, with our interviews and stuff, we've never been sent screeners. All the movies that we review are we pay for, right? We go to the cinema, or we download. Oh, we download. We stream them from whatever streaming service, because A, we probably genuinely want to see the movie, and B, we probably genuinely want to talk about it to each other. So, there's that kind of element too that we were just that I'm really, in hindsight, really proud of, because, I like, I went to the movies I used to go to the movies 3 times a week. Like, when we were in like, not lockdown, whatever,
Ladies and gentlemen, he is not exaggerating. He would do that a lot. And sometimes I'd tell people and they wouldn't believe me. And it's like, you don't understand. Nobody likes movies more than Zoheb. Zoheb is the ultimate movie fan. He, not only does he go to the movies 1 million times a week, he will also know he knows every director. He knows how to pronounce every actor's name to a crazy, this is not just, I'm not saying it because I'm bad at names. He knows everything. And as as I've been looking for co-hosts and people to do things with this new venture, I've just been like, it's going to be, the vibe's going to be at least somewhat different, because no one is going to know every little thing about every movie the way Zoheb is. He's he's the human personification of IMDb. So I'll tell you, the next show, it's going to be,
I appreciate
it's
that.
probably going to be more analytical in terms of what the thing is, because like, there's so many times we've recorded the podcast where I thought I've done enough information, and then you just come out of nowhere. It's like, well, the cinematographer did these 5 things. Like, how many people are looking at the cinematographer off a trailer? Like, no, who does this? It's like, he's that much a fan. So again, like, I've said this to you offline, man, but it's like, I'm still actually kind of surprised you don't want to, like, I understand because of the doing it after work thing and during the week, and you're living with your girlfriend now, and that would have a big impact on your life. But like, you love talking about movies, and what I love about this podcast so much, and what also makes me nervous moving forward, is what's great about this podcast, and I'm hoping the listeners can relate to this, is the amount of times you and me would go to Blacktown. Maybe we'd have some food at Nando's or whatever, but we'd go to Hoyt's Blacktown, the roof of
We're
Blacktown.
not being racist, Americans, or anyone international.
That's the name of the name of the place, Blacktown, West Point. Or we'd go to Mount Druitt or some other places, and we would just, after the movie, we wouldn't just go home. We'd stand around and talk. There was nowhere to go. So we'd stand out there in the cold, sometimes shivering in our jumpers and talking about, oh, what'd you think of this scene? And rah, rah. And so the podcast is really just recapturing that energy. And I live for that, dude. It's my favorite thing to do, to see a movie and then talk about it, even in the cold. And I love this podcast because it really captures that energy. And I'm hoping for the audience, I hope you guys have had that same vibe, because for me, that's so fun. And I'm sure, like, when Dune comes out and Upcoming Attractions covers Dune, you're going to be like, you're not gonna let me do it without you, you know. Like, I know, because you're gonna want to talk about it or something, or some other movies as well. But yeah, I love that about the show.
I mean, look, I think it's bittersweet, and we're spending a lot of time on this, which I love, because we're kind of like going down like a little bit of a retrospective rabbit hole. But like, you know, this show, the Upcoming Attractions has kind of like taught me a lot in terms of just how you edit things and how you I guess approach things and how you deal with things. I mean, like, there was a long time when actually not that long ago, you and I were kind of like debating in the group chat about interviews, about, you know, and these were like spirited debates, by the way. Like, you know, I don't want to go too far into through the looking glass, but these are like, we were wondering what was right, whether the interviews get kind of like integrated into the Upcoming Attractions episode, or whether the interviews would be standalone episodes. And, you know, we did kind of like pros and cons, and, you know, we got Danny and Colin involved, and they were talking about it too, also providing the pros and cons. And then we just kind of like, I think as a majority, ended up doing what we're doing now. So like, you know, it also kind of like, in the behind the scenes element of it, kind of taught me a lot about how to negotiate and I guess, like, you know, work better in a team. And I'm still learning that as a person, because I am pretty stubborn and I am very controlling of this podcast. Because I guess, I don't know, like, in the back of my mind, it's my baby, but it's also your baby too, because you've worked on this for so long. And not only that, but you've contributed actual money to it, funds. You know,
some of you guys owe me some stuff, but that's okay. It's gonna be my gift to you. So, I'm not. I said I was going to bring it up, but yeah, that's all I'll say.
But no, I mean, like, this has been fun, man. I'm really, I'm both now that we're talking about it, I'm both bummed and excited at the same time. But I mean, look, I'm pretty, I guess, solid on my position.
Yeah,
you know, like, this is just going to have to be one of those things where, you know, we play it by ear. I'm excited for you to have your own show. I'm excited to see you lead a podcast, because, look, I'm just going to straight up tell you, it's not easy. it's pretty tough.
Yeah.
And you're juggling a lot of things. So I'm just gonna, like, the only kind of like, I guess, wisdom that I'm gonna impart on you is just be patient with it. Because it's not, I mean, like, you know, it's not like I'm sitting here with, you know, Joe Rogan's download numbers or anything like that, right? I mean, you know, but yeah, it is what it is.
Oh, look, dude, not a lot of people probably don't know this, but it wasn't my podcast, but I was part of a podcast in 2012. It's very hard to find the episodes. They're not on the Apple Store. But if you find it through Libsyn, you can. I did about 100 episodes or so, but they're weekly, for capsulecomputers.com, a video game website. And they were really bad. They were recorded over Skype. Our voices got really digital. And there was maybe about 5 to 6 people per episode. We talked over each other. And we were very international. Like, we had like 2 or 3 people in America. I think one was in Canada. There were a couple in Australia. There's one guy who was in China sometimes, who traveled a lot. and I did that for a little bit. But I missed that, you know? The quality is terrible. If you can find it, like, don't listen to it. That was like, I hadn't even listened to a podcast. I was recording podcasts before I even knew what they were. But after that, I only did that for about a couple of years. And then I had this huge break, and then doing it with you guys, and the whole scene had changed. I learned a lot about the differences of it, and I loved it. And I came in like as an actual podcast fan and a fan of the show as well. Yeah, it's been an incredible experience. And thank you for awakening that with me, because I'm a creative spirit. I'm always making films and stuff, and I was too depressed at the idea of letting this go. So there's a chance this could crash and burn. I think one of the best things you've done is build such a great community with the after party. All the team has done is building a community with the after party and being consistent. I know that's a big part of it. I'm very scared. I'm petrified, but I'm also excited. And I want you to think of it as like your platform as well. Like, you are built into the DNA of upcoming attractions, and probably in the first part of it being a thing is we will be looking back on a lot of the way it was built with MDF and stuff like that. So you will always have your DNA in the show, and it'll be your platform as well. So whenever something comes out and you need to talk about it, you bash me over the head, and it'll just be like good old days. Fuck, I'm getting emotional. Fuck this shit. Fuck this shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, this upcoming attractions episode is also recorded on video. So if you want to see Matt cry on video, you can go ahead and do that and head to our Patreon, patreon.com/greenroom, Midnight Double Feature. Because, you know, we don't record our episodes or anything like that. We just thought that this was a bit of a special one. So, I mean, look, it is it's a big step. And, you know, like podcasts, other podcasts have gone on for so long. Like, look at Hey Do You Remember? They closed their doors not too long ago. They've been going, they went for 7 or 8 years, man.
Shout out
and
to
I'm
them.
just like, man, how? And they entirely just kind of like closed. Like, it's not like they just closed their entire, one strand of like what they were doing. They just, you know, just moved on to different things. So, you know, while Midnight Double Feature isn't doing that, this is 50% of what Midnight Double Feature is. And, you know, in doing this, I hope we don't lose listeners, but I know inevitably we will, because some people come only for upcoming attractions. But I mean, like, you know, they'll go to you, hopefully, you know, so, yeah, this is still going to be a massive sort of like collaborative environment. You know, we're a part. I always like to say that, you know, Midnight Double Feature is a part of like a network of podcasts, like an unofficial network. You know, you got LSG Media, you've got Hey Do You Remember, formerly. You know, Married People Watch Movies. Like, you know, Floyd Fry's podcast. That I'm blanking on the name.
Is it the Popped Culture one?
The Pop List.
Oh, Pop List. Sorry,
yeah.
I was actually explaining that to
so-
a friend of mine who is going to be helping out in some capacity, and I was like,
okay, cool.
I was just saying, like, Midnight Double Feature, what's kind of special about it, and one of the things we probably can't replicate is Zoheb and Colin have done this great job of, I wouldn't even say it's a job, but just the personalities of who you are. You're embedded in this community of podcasts, and that's how you met. Like, you guys met through a fan group for LSG, and
yep.
That's amazing. And I've loved meeting people like Carlos and Patrick and all these other people doing their podcasts too, who are so supportive of Midnight Double Feature. And thank you guys, because those guys and a whole bunch of them who I know knew you guys too have been so like nice to me, and I felt very welcome to the family. And I'm scared to leave it.
You're not leaving it.
I'm not leaving
right,
it,
I mean,
but I'm definitely not leaving it. But starting anything new is scary, especially when I know how much work it's going to be. This is actually not happening at a convenient time for me, but that's totally
work is good.
I live off that shit.
Embrace the suck.
Look, before cry. I can't believe this. These are the emotions. I do want to say once again, because we are probably going too long on this. But to everyone who's been a fan of upcoming attractions, thank you so much. I know feature presentations are the lifeblood of Midnight Double Feature. And like what you were saying earlier, Zoheb, like I'm the opposite. Like I prefer spending 2 hours on a weeknight than like these guys spend like 3 hours plus sometimes doing a feature presentation on a Saturday. I don't know I could do that. That's like you talk about this being tiring. That is exhausting, but the fans love it and they are great episodes. But yeah, so for everyone else who likes upcoming attractions, please check us out. Like the podcast is not live yet. It'll be live in about 2 weeks, but you can follow us on social media. Upcoming Attractions on Facebook, Upcoming Attractions Pod on Instagram. If you do that, you'll probably see our logo a little bit early. But when we launch, there's going to be a big buzz about it, so you'll hear about it. Okay, we got an interview, don't we? We got an interview to cut to, don't we?
Yes, we do have an interview. So thank you for listening to our diatribe, ladies and gentlemen. Much appreciated. Yeah. We did not expect it to go on for half an hour.
Oh, God.
But there it is. So
sorry, just real quick. Let me just say it real quick before I don't, because I probably forget it. Zoheb, I love you, bro. Sad to say it.
I love you too, my friend.
Sorry. The interview.
It's we live like 15 kilometers from each other.
It used to be 15 minutes. Now it's 15 kilometers. Who knows? In a few years, it might be longer, bro.
No, it's fine, dude. Don't worry. This is the journey. This is the first step into the journey of the unknown into the unknown. So it's a good thing. So yeah, look. Thank you so much for listening to upcoming attractions, guys. We really appreciate this. And while you might hear some sadness in our voices, I think we're just both ready for the next kind of like step.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. All right, let me go ahead and segue. Well, not really segue. I'm just going to go ahead and make a hard and fast transition into our interview of the night. So this is interesting. I woke up one morning and I saw the Midnight Double Feature inbox, and we received a offer to interview Kendall and Vera Whelpton. And I was like, who are these guys? And then, it turns out that these guys, along with another couple, stayed in the house that inspired the real Conjuring house. Sorry, that inspired the Conjuring house. Yes, the movies. So this is the house where the Perrin family were kind of, I guess, harassed by a poltergeist. What you see in the first Conjuring movie, especially, it doesn't have anything to do with the second or third one. But yeah, it's that first one, and they stay in it. They created a documentary. They camera the entire house up, light it up. And there's some weird shit going on because I am usually skeptical when it comes to paranormal activity movies, like or documentaries rather. I kind of like go into it with like an open mind, but I'm always like, I don't know about that. It could just be a lens flare or something like that. But there are things in this documentary that are questionable, absolutely questionable. I don't go hard on like the paranormal activity stuff, but there are things in here that are just like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And Kendall and Vera made for an amazing interview. They're the most down-to-earth people on the planet. This was absolutely one of my favorite interviews, and I really, really appreciated their time. So, guys, without any further ado, here's Kendall and Vera Whelpton, who directed and created and starred and developed and edited and shot the Sleepless Unrest. Kendall and Vera Whelpton, welcome to Midnight Double Feature. Lovely to meet you, and thank you so much for joining us. We're absolutely honored to have you, and congratulations on the Sleepless Unrest. This was a movie. This was okay. So look, I watched this with my girlfriend, and we watched it in the dead of night. We watched it with the lights off. My only regret is, oh God, I wish I'd seen this in the cinema. It's just one of those like experiences where I wish I saw this with a crowd, and I wish I saw this in the correct atmosphere. But unfortunately, it's just not the way sometimes things pan out. And this is not really a question that I wanted to start off with, but considering the recent, I guess, situation around COVID here in Sydney, we've actually just been plunged into lockdown again. So
I heard that, yeah.
Like if you guys had the opportunity to do a wide release, if you guys had the budget to do a wide release, would you have? And is the cinematic experience obviously important to you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. The cinematic experience is always important to us on how we do all our productions. We actually shot the film in 6K and down-resed it to 4K. So we were, just in case, you just never know the longevity of films, and you just gotta you gotta plan for that. And we wanted to do this different. This film, documentary, reality movie, like it's just,
you're not sure what to call it.
Yeah, it's a very immersed experience, and we just tried to document the best we could with that. And it really followed through in the edit, and just the whole experience is it's a big movie. It wants to be on the big screen. We've been lucky enough to view it on the big screen the first time ever a few weeks ago, and I mean, it was pretty amazing. So,
and it was interesting to see the audience reactions. Where they laughed, where they went, ooh, things like that. It was actually really cool for us to witness that.
Oh, totally. Like, were you guys just kind of like anticipating it, just sitting there? All right, I hope this gets a big reaction.
Yeah,
we were like looking over, looking. Our cast too. Our cast hadn't seen it ever until that time that we showed it for the premiere, and we're watching the cast and the reaction, the homeowners. We're like, our hearts are like, because it's like, I hope they don't, I hope they're okay. I hope they like it. Yeah.
I'm sure they loved it. Look, before I do get into the Sleepless Unrest, I want to talk about you guys. This is, it's a bit of a two-parter. So paranormal investigator isn't what you'd really call a common gig. So how did you guys become interested in investigating the paranormal? And I guess as an addition to that, how do you guys usually respond to the inevitable people who might dismiss what you guys do? Because I mean, I'm sure you get it. And if you don't, amazing, that's fantastic. But I'm sure you must have got your detractors. So how do you guys usually respond to that? And I guess a 3-part question: were you guys inspired at all by Ed and Lorraine Warren?
Sorry. First question, how do we get started? We go way back since our childhood. Your parents are super into, they had paranormal experiences. My parents did too. I grew up listening to stories all throughout my childhood, and then all the way until adulthood, when I actually had a profound paranormal experience regarding my father after he passed away. And that changed me. That's what got me taking things more serious. And I wanted to learn the word, what it is to investigate and really research and learn as much as I could, because it took a very personal. I wanted to find out if that was really my dad from the other side. Was it really my dad, or was it me going through the mourning process, or was it something else? And that's what got me started. And then I ended up applying to a TV show called Ghost Hunters Academy, and that's where I met Kendall. And then little did I know, our childhoods were pretty similar. I mean, your parents. My parents, they've always been into the paranormal. We have big family gatherings, and everybody's talking about my uncle's house that was haunted and the things that had happened recently. And I played Ouija board in the house with my cousin. And then later, that was back then when it wasn't really a thing, But yeah, I mean, I moved out of my house when I was 18 and moved
to Colorado up in the mountains and moved into a hospital, an old hospital. I didn't know it at the time, but the first night there, stuff started happening. So it just But you moved to an apartment. Yeah, the apartment. It was an old hospital. Oh, wow. I mean, they had made the rooms in the old hospital apartment areas, and it was a pretty noisy first night. And I remember just having an experience the first night. I had a cold breeze come over my face and ruffle my sleeping bag. I was sleeping on the floor, and I mean, after that, stuff was happening all the time. It was a very tricky. When your mom visited, she said that the TV would turn on and off. Yeah, and it was mischievous. All kinds of stuff. Always messing with us. Anyway, that actually piqued my interest in the paranormal. And then I saw this show that was hiring. It was called Ghost Hunters, and I applied to it and got the job. Season 2 I was on, and that was it, man. I was in, and working as a cameraman all the way up until the new A&E series. It just was something that I've been into and fascinated with.
That's amazing. And that's such a great, I love hearing about your guys' history. That's awesome. And you guys were meant to be when you guys met. That's fantastic. I
mean, it seems like we have very similar upbringing. So our family love each other. It was normal for us to talk about ghost stories.
It was. It wasn't
like other people.
It wasn't woo-woo or taboo or anything. So that helped. Our families definitely embraced it and are interested in it. So it made it okay for us to
do what we do.
That's so good to hear, and that's so wholesome. I love that.
What was your second question?
I think it was the Warrens.
I threw it out. I'm sorry, it was not meant to be that huge, and I apologize. But the second question was, in relation to kind of people who dismiss what you guys do. So, if you've ever come across anyone who, you're doing what you're doing, and they're kind of like. You sense that they're rolling their eyes at you behind your back. How do you deal with that? Do you confront it? Do you walk up to them?
No. Everybody's entitled to their opinion for sure. And this has been something that's been very controversial for many, many years. So we get it. We understand it. Look, we're not trying to convince anybody, a skeptic into a believer. Our job is to document. And that's our main focus is to document and just present credible evidence in what we do. And these documentaries that, The House in Between was about a homeowner living in a house. And it really helped her because it brought light to her situation, which she gave up her house because of the paranormal activity happening. So, if we can ever help people or help them understand or even show them footage that they're experiencing, that's a win-win situation. I think it helps.
In fact, I'm fascinated by skeptics. I love talking to them because they keep things grounded. In fact, we hired our editor AP as well, Corey Frost, who was part of the project, and he's a skeptic. And it was hard. We thought they made a good balance because, he would keep us grounded. Sometimes we would hear things that he wouldn't believe. He would, well, this is, I don't know about this. And we wanted to present the best of everything. And he kept us totally grounded.
He gave us a
good filter because we want to be appealing to everybody. And we want to be able to tell a good story that would be appreciated by everybody, skeptic and non-skeptic.
It's not good to sway all the way one side. It's just not. And you have to really look at some of the stuff you're doing. And you have multiple people. We have a very nice tight-knit network that we work with that, reviews this evidence that we capture. And it's just, it's a process, and we definitely want to put the best stuff forward.
Absolutely. That's such a healthy mindset. And I think you guys did such a great look, I'm gonna say that I'm probably on the skeptical side when it comes to these kinds of things. But I mean, you guys did such a great job of, like you said, just presenting the evidence, and the evidence being the mouthpiece instead of you guys being the mouthpiece of what you're trying to get across. You guys did such a great job. I love it. So look, let's move on to the movie itself. Documentary filmmaking is a bit of a weird beast in that your movie might change based on what you experience as you're making it. as opposed to a pre-existing script, right? In normal other genres. So, did the film change for you guys as you were experiencing the event, or did it turn out to be exactly as you expected? Like, did at one point in the movie while you're making it, did you kind of have to pivot and be like, "Oh, this is what the movie is," rather than what you set out to be, or what you set out to make?
There was no pre-production for this because we were invited to this. First, we were invited to just hang out with our friends at that location. Then we asked permission that we could film. So there was no planning at all. It was pack the bag, get a babysitter, pack the cameras in the car, and let's go.
Let's go. Literally, it's how it happened. What you saw was exactly the adventure that we embarked on. And I mean, it was...
wanted to document the real experience of a group of friends experiencing a real haunted house. Is so famous.
How many movies have you seen with that, that premise? It's like, they get drawn to the place and blah, blah, blah. Right. Well, where's the real story of that? We asked that, let's see what this does. And if, we were prepared if this doesn't produce anything, which we've done stuff, we've gone to other locations and it hasn't produced for us. And we're willing to, with the pandemic and everything, to give things a shot, and it just, quickly it just unfolded fast for us. And it was
a big risk.
It was, yeah.
It's a big risk, but we just did it. We did it. And to our surprise, stuff happened and we were surprised. Nobody at any moment we were like, oh, let's change this or that. It was just all about just capturing the experience, everything that happened. There was one surprise that happened, and as you know, towards the end of the film that we weren't expecting.
Yeah. I'll ask about that. Towards the end of
So I won't go into it, but to answer your question, that was the only one that we were like, whoa, we weren't expecting that one.
Yeah,
but we kept it as linear as possible, just as it happened.
And we didn't do any research before going there. Go ahead.
The only thing that changed was the ending, because when we went home, we thought it was just the ending was the ending, the end of the location. Sure. And as you know, something happens. So we had to add that to the end, because that's the only thing that made us.
Yeah, we thought it was a closed and shut case,
Yeah.
And, but I mean, to put on top of that, we didn't do any kind of research. We went in with just an open palette, no preconceived
and nothing to influence
anything. Open mind.
Yeah. We didn't want to just read about everybody's experience there
or claims.
Claims. There's been many investigators in there, and we stayed away from researching any of that, and it was good. We didn't really know much about the house up until just mostly the Warrens and the Perrin family dealings there, and it was just good for us to document our experience.
No, absolutely. I mean, that way, I guess, as a documentarian, you avoid bias, right? Like running into anything, any preconceived leanings or anything like that. So that's absolutely fantastic. So during the events of the film, you guys get yourself into places and positions that other people wouldn't dare to go. You especially, Kendall, with the take some huge risks to your personal safety to get the answers you're looking for, and because you're kind of like pulling a thread, right? So you're wondering what's at the other end of this thread, and you just don't know. So my question is, do you guys need to rationalize in your mind and weigh up the risk versus reward before going into these situations? When you're putting possibly yourself, your body in harm's way.
He got in big trouble for that one with me. But again, he doesn't listen. It's like he knows that he's gonna get scolded afterwards. And
man, am I right?
Ask for forgiveness, right? Afterwards.
Yeah, it's easy to ask for forgiveness.
But listen, I know that he will never put himself in danger. Like, he will never do something that he doesn't feel he can have, that you have under control.
Yeah.
He would never do that. So I trust your judgment. I do.
My gauge of things like that are a little different than the normal person. I think I'm more apt to get in there, put myself into into situations or things, just from my past and background. I used to be a professional snowboarder, and
nice.
I'm used to kind of putting myself riding that fine line, you know what I mean? So it's adventurous for me in points. And, if there's a spot that, I'm hearing a noise from, or there's something that I need to get in there or do it, it's one to be able to capture it. And that's why we're doing this. Mm-hmm. But the other thing, especially the well, I like to conquer a lot of my fears right away. And that's kind of a way for me to push myself to kind of conquer those fears. I'm very claustrophobic, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna conquer this fear here, because then it makes it easier for me, I guess. I don't know. It's just a weird mindset mentality, but
God, I need that mindset in my life. that's so inspiring, man. I mean, even towards the end with the bridge, it's obviously it's the paranormal that people come for in this movie, but when you're physically getting your body into these spaces, in the well with all that claustrophobic, that claustrophobic space, and then when you're in the basement at night by yourself, and then you guys are in the forest, it is, you got to think about the physical body as well. It's crazy where you guys end up.
Yeah, it was an adventure. We had no idea that house was that active. Yeah, no, what it was. I mean, it was
surprising. It was surprising.
It's a different story staying at these places for long periods of time and exposing yourself to them for that amount of time. It's just different. Like for us, we called it the Sleepless Unrest, and that definitely held true to the whole project. It was a very noisy house, and it was a very active house, and it was almost taunting us at points, because like it would do, like something would happen and I wouldn't have my camera and it'd just be off the side of the DVR. And I'm like, literally like, wait, I'm not rolling. I'm not, like,
and we're like, really?
It's interesting. I mean, it's just, it's playful and just, it's just nonstop. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you put enough cameras in a place, you're going to get stuff.
I was surprised though.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of something that I wanted to get into. I mean, was there anything that you guys ended up cutting out of the documentary, or did you, were there any other happenings that you guys were like, I don't know about this, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out in editing? Speaking of what you just talked about.
There was a lot. The movie was 2 hours.
Wow.
The movie
no, it was way longer, but the final was 2 hours, and then we had to just start cutting, sacrificing stuff that I was like, I really like it, but we couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot that happened. Can I talk about the basement?
Yeah, which one? Yeah.
I had something happen there that's never happened in my life. I've been to a lot of these locations, and it didn't make the film because it was a personal experience, and it unfortunately wasn't documented. But yeah, I got touched. I was in the basement, and I felt this very nice, like I was asking for it. I jumped in front of the camera and I was like, hey, or if you're here, blah, 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 if you can just give us a sign or whatever. And I felt a very nice, like gentle, like holding of my arm right here.
Touch. Okay.
Yeah. Not like a punch or pinch or anything. And I just, I'm like, oh, this is happening. I'm going play by play. This is happening. This is what's happening, and everybody's looking at me like, oh my God.
Thinking, it was pitch black first. And I'm just like trying to get a flashlight, and then we're just like, because we didn't have IR. Yeah, we didn't film with IR. No. But case in point, we went back in the footage. I was hoping for the sleeve to show the proof, something to physically show my personal experience, back it up. There was nothing there. And it was just a personal experience. Yeah, it was. You can see his face. He was like completely. It was shocking. Yeah. It was shocking. Yeah. I mean, it didn't feel negative or
any kind of, I don't know, it didn't feel like it was out to get me or anything. It didn't feel aggressive it just was like, hey, I'm here, I'm doing what you're asking for. And like it stayed, and then it just kind of, and it's interesting because that has happened to other investigators.
We found out that later.
Okay. Yeah, we found that
the
out.
owners told us that that's actually a claim that happens to males in the basement.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. That's interesting. I mean, it seems like, you know, whatever is there, be it one entity or multiple entities, is incredibly, you know, responsive to questions and being, you know, prompts. Because I'm thinking about in particular that moment with the doors, right, when you guys are sitting there and the door, you know, you guys look in two directions, and then you see whatever you see in that sort of window. So yeah, it's crazy that it's so I guess reactive to prompts.
Interactive, reactive. Yeah. We've, you know, with our time there, we don't know what it is or what's going on there, but we know that we're getting interaction, and we feel it's intelligent interaction, which is very fascinating for us. And if you can capture just a little bit of that, that's a big win for, you know, what we're doing here.
Absolutely. So look, this interview is going to release just after the release of the actual film. So I'm hoping some people would have seen this by then, because I kind of want to talk about the ending of the film, and I don't want to spend too much time on it because I know it is extremely it's extremely serious, and you know it's something that I guess stays with you. And I don't want to make light of it because it's not something to joke around about. But I just kind of want to ask, how are you guys doing after the events of the film? Because, I didn't have a particular question sort of queued up for this. It's more about just like, how are you guys? How's your well-being? In addition to, Brian and Rachel as well, who you bring along as well. I just kind of wanted to ask, just how you guys are doing.
Well, and honestly, it took about 3 months to recover from that whole experience. About 3 months for all of us. Yeah, we didn't even know about Brian Rachel until later when we started talking, and we're like, oh, we're not the only ones. Everybody's having issues, and we talked, and it's really amazing that we have a really good supporting group. We were all there for each other. So even, I mean, this goes beyond, like, I don't even know how much I can say.
So, I mean, but it was
tough. It was tough.
Very tough. What we encountered with our daughter was the hardest thing that I've ever had to, that I've ever done and documented. That was tough, but
I'm sure. Yeah.
It was, and even we cut it out and then we put it back in and we cut it. Like, it was just one of those things where we're just like, man, but I think there's some information to be learned. I think there's something to be learned from it. And I'll be honest with you, it's not the first time something has happened to us after we've done one of these shoots. So Vera and I had talked early on, like, are we documenting this?
It's only fair that if that stuff is happening and we see a pattern, I mean, I feel we were responsible to document that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was tough. I mean, seeing her, still dealing with the dream. She saw,
I was having a lot of nightmares,
seeing stuff in the bedroom, and
all kinds of experiences.
I mean, that's something.
I even started being angry with him because I thought, well, why did we do this? Why did you get in the well? What do you do? Yeah. I started almost blaming and kind of like, maybe we went too far. Maybe we should not have done this. But, we're trained, we're strong. Our parents have been there, done that. Mm-hmm. They were super supportive. I asked my mother, do you think it's a good idea to present this particular situation and put it to, this particular scene on camera? And she was supportive. She said, I think it's important that people see what really did happen. So we got her blessing and we were like, okay, so let's do it. And
especially because Brian and Rochelle are also having
Yeah, it wasn't just us; it was all of us.
Like,
all of us.
This is something. So
even I have to say it, but you're the first one to hear this. But even our skeptical editor, as he was editing, he started. I don't know what he didn't know that we were having anything, but he called us and he said, some strange things are happening. And then he started telling us, and we were like, oh my God, like what's going on? So we are super spiritually strong, and we pray. Like we haven't prayed in a long time.
We do a lot of protection.
And we also rely a lot in laughter. We laugh a lot. The laughter will conquer fear, y'all.
Love and laughter,
our strength in each other. Yeah. And because we were starting to bicker, like, because we weren't sleeping, we were stressed out, we were having issues.
Sure, tensions got high, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Now you're home and you're in your safe zone, and
when you guard down, and
you're supposed to be not having the same stuff happening that was happening there at your own personal space.
It didn't make sense. So we got it. We're much better now. Once in a while, it gets kind of strange, but we
nip it in the butt.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys seem like two extremely strong people, and as long as you guys have each other, you have your family. It's strength in numbers. I'm glad to hear you guys are obviously safe, and you guys are dealing with it as you're dealing with it so healthily. So it's amazing. So look, we are nearing the end of our time here. So look, I just wanted to say thank you so much for talking to me about Sleepless Unrest. Again, the movie is fantastic. It's riveting from start to finish. Once you get to that final sort of, I guess, if you want to break them down to third act, you're just kind of like at the edge of your seat. So, congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Just one final question. This was something that I asked all of my guests. So we're called Midnight Double Feature. What's your guys' favorite double feature? If you had time to sit down on a Sunday back to back, what would you choose?
That's a really good question.
It's always off the cuff, these questions. I love I love saying the guests.
Well, Contact.
I love Contact. Contact.
Right. And then maybe like
I love Back to the Future.
Maybe Goonies or something.
I love. All these 80s movies. Steven Spielberg. Anything Steven Spielberg. I'm happy. Or. Yeah, like she was hoping for scary movies. I don't watch scary movies.
I can't. Yeah, she can't. I
get so nervous. I'm always covering my eyes because I know it's all about jump scares and horrible faces and blood and like guts and like I try to avoid them. But if you're asking specifically a scary movie,
I'd say Contact and
a scary movie.
Oh, scary movie.
Horror.
Well, we got to go with The Conjuring, right?
Absolutely.
Anything by James Wan, the guys are
absolutely, that's a given for sure. We actually just watched that the other night, so
nice.
The original Exorcist was pretty.
Yeah.
Pretty
oh
good.
boy,
And
that's something that sticks with you.
Yeah. Oh my God, the movie The Strangers. Oh, that's the creepiest. That's probably gave me nightmares for a long time.
That's a different kind of horror. Man, that's terrifying.
Yeah. I'm glad you think so.
But look, guys, again, congratulations again on the film. At this time, hopefully by the time everyone's listening to this, Sleepless Unrest, The Real Conjuring Home is out now in select theaters and on VOD. So huge congratulations, and you guys are we can't wait to see what you guys make next, and you guys have an open invite to come back onto the podcast to talk about what you guys want to talk about, because even just a riff about just movies, we'd love to have you back. So thank you so much.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. I'll catch you guys next time, but this has been amazing. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. We love talking to you. Enjoy this conversation with Don.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Thank you so much to Kendall and Vera Whelpton for jumping on for this episode of the podcast, for that interview, for the Sleepless Unrest The Real Conjuring Home. I really appreciated it. It's available on video on demand now. And I actually recommend it, because I don't go hard on paranormal activity kind of documentaries, things that are not fictional, because I don't know, I believe in evidence, and sometimes the evidence is really spotty. But in this, again, like I said, there are things that'll make you question it. It's just like, oh, okay, wow. And Kendall and Vera, like I said, are great down to earth people. Yeah, they gave me amazing answers. They're both they look like a fun couple. They're awesome. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much to Kendall and Vera for jumping on for this episode of the podcast. Matt, what do you got?
Incredible. Well, for those who don't know, in Sydney right now, we've been put in a pretty aggressive lockdown. So there's been a lot of movies we haven't seen that have come out. I know Old just came out, Space Jam, New Legacy. I have a friend in the States who just saw an advanced screening of Suicide Squad, who I'm very jealous of. But we can't talk about any of those movies today, because even if the only way to see them is illegally, and I think I might have missed another big one. Is Snake Eyes
now
out?
Now might be the best time for upcoming attractions to stop.
Yeah, I've been thinking that all day. It's like, this is the worst time to start a podcast about the latest movies. But we're going to make do. I'm looking forward to Sweet Child coming on Netflix, and I'm sure there's some other shit. But we got some trailers. This has been an interesting week for trailers. Let's jump through it, shall we? Sorry, I think I cut out there. Yep. Let's jump into it. All right. So first up, we have Malignant. My man, what did you think of Malignant?
Yeah, so this was a movie that kind of like hit my radar when I found out that James Wan was not directing The Conjuring 3. Instead, he's going to go and opt for an original horror film. And it's always interesting when James Wan does something original. From Dead Silence to the first Conjuring to Insidious. And then, he does his big franchise films like Aquaman and Fast and Furious 7. Yes, I believe that's right.
Yeah,
7.
that's correct.
And Malignant looks interesting. I don't want to say that I'm fully on board yet. There's something about it that's just not really grabbing me. I don't know if it's the overuse of CG, like especially in the opening seconds of the trailer or anything like that. I don't know if it's Annabelle Wallis, because I can't get the sour taste of the Mummy reboot from my mouth.
It's a pretty sour taste.
It is a sour taste. I think there are moments in this trailer that really grab me. I am intrigued about. I love the idea of like this malevolent spirit chasing her from childhood. I love that whole the kid can see things, but the adult can't. It turns out to be the devil. But I don't know. I also like that she is witnessing other people's deaths. There's something really terrifying about being present. Or, actually, it really reminded me of something that my dad describes, because my dad suffered from bouts of sleep paralysis. And, obviously so sleep paralysis is when you're asleep and you can't move and you are awake. And, he described sometimes of seeing shapes in the room, or seeing something holding him down, and whether he's dreaming this or he is actually awake, I don't know. And to him, I don't know either, because I haven't experienced the thing. But like, there are moments in this when Annabelle Wallis is in bed, and she sees like a figure, kind of like approaching her or something like that. That's kind of what it reminds me of.
That's a good comparison. I've heard a lot of people say similar things about sleep paralysis. Yeah. I've literally heard people talk to it about like demons and stuff. And there's a theory I've heard is a lot of people who claim to be abducted, a lot of their stories by aliens, a lot of their stories are like, they came into my room and stuff. There are theories out there that maybe there were people under some medication who had sleep paralysis and stuff. There's a lot of like stuff to that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know if Malignant has anything to do with sleep paralysis, but it'd be really interesting. It'd be a really interesting idea to explore, and especially by James Wan, who is a master of his craft. I'm keen to see it. So look, I think visually it looks very much like a Conjuring or Insidious film. So there's something about James Wan's horror movies where the color of the frame is just kind of sucked out and it's replaced by grays and dark browns, and there's no, and I get it because he's trying to create an atmosphere because it's a horror movie, but there's something about if I saw a still from Malignant and I saw a still from The Conjuring 2, they both look very steely gray. And I'm kind of getting over that. I'm kind of moving past that. So yeah.
Yeah, with that last point you made, I'm half on board, half not. I think something that I found disappointing with this is the settings feel very Conjuring. It feels a little too close because Insidious to me as well feels a little bit too similar to Conjuring as well. I know they're different approaches to stuff, but like this is his third franchise now about demonic spirits and stuff, and that's not including his earlier work. So he's really put himself in a pigeonhole here. What I think what makes this a bit different is the reliance on special effects and CGI. It's a lot more stylized. I do see the grays you're talking about, but I do think overall, like from his lens choices to the use of CGI to some of the weird trippy stuff, it reminds me a little bit of the early Saw movies, actually. They had very like early 2000s music video nu metal editing techniques. And I feel like we're seeing that in a more modern way here. Like literally one of the first shots is like a sped up 360-degree shot around our protagonist. And it's like, oh, I've seen that shot in almost every Saw movie. Like it's interesting to see what feels more like what I expect from James Wan, like that weird stuff. Like even Aquaman had some weird stylistic editing choices because he's just he's a bit of a weird guy in terms of that, which is kind of why I love him as well. So I feel like weirdly this film feels more James Wan than maybe the Conjuring movies did, maybe even Insidious. But do I think it's going to be better than those? Oh, I don't know. It feels like he's. I hate to say this because I love James Wan so much, but I kind of feel like he keeps scraping out of the same barrel. I do like how this looks a bit more Hollywoody than and I can see like what he took from some of those non-horror films into here, but the scary house, the demons. He's done this in, 2 Conjurings and 2 Insidious films already. It's feeling a bit samey.
It's starting to feel a little stale, I think.
Yeah, and it's disappointing because he's such a great at horror. He's so great at horror. I'd love to see him tackle maybe a slasher or some other type of horror film. Or he clearly is good at action. Furious 7, Aquaman. I'd love to see that. Clearly he loves horror. I'm not going to take that away from him. But yeah, I really hope this film does something to differentiate itself more. I know this feels a little bit stylistically a little bit in another direction, but it's not enough. I do think like the creature looks really scary and creepy, but you know what else looks scary and creepy? The demons in Insidious. It's not that different in a way. The only other thing I could say is I've recently watched Lights Out, and I'm getting similar vibes here with like the dark girl like in the shadows and the creepy house. But yeah, man, I'm hoping this film it does something different. Yeah. Anything else about this?
Not particularly. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like this. I'll definitely watch it. It's just more. It's a little. The trailer's kind of like soured my, I think, expectations a little bit because I don't know. It doesn't look different enough.
You know what? It would be like if Jordan Peele was doing another movie that looked exactly like Get Out. It wouldn't be as exciting. Like Us is a completely different concept. The things that make him such an iconic director and writer is still there, and that's why we love him, right? But like,
Right. Well, there's always going to be directors' trademarks in things, especially in visual style too. I mean, visual style is the easiest thing for a director to kind of like maintain. I mean, look at Michael Bay.
Oh yeah,
his action sequences all look pretty much exactly alike. Minus CGI robots, but like, it's tough. It's tough to criticize a director's visual style because that's what they're good at, and especially James Wan, because he's achieved commercial success off this particular style of movie, right? I mean, like, look at Conjuring, the first one. Look at the Insidious franchise. So if this works for him, and this is a story that he likes to tell, I mean, there's another movie that he made before the Insidious movie, the first one, called Dead Silence, and Dead Silence looks pretty much exactly like this as well, like, visually. So, I mean, like, props to him, and I definitely will watch it. It's just more about, my excitement level has kind of like dropped now a little bit.
I wonder why, like, if Guy Ritchie came out with another gangster film, we wouldn't complain. If Tarantino came out with another, maybe Tarantino's not a good example, but like, Neil Blomkamp, we'll talk about later, did like another film that looked just like Actually, no, maybe if he did another film that looked like District 9, maybe we'd be like, I don't know, because Chappie was also from the same world almost, Maybe it might be just a little bit disappointing to see directors we love not elevate and go to new things. Like, I think Tarantino's interesting because every film is a little bit different, He loves taking a new genre and taking his own spin on that or whatever. But regardless, we're both big fans of James Wan, so probably both going to be there opening day if the lockdown allows us. Shall we move on to Demonic?
Yeah, let's move on.
Another demon-y kind of film. But this is a very different sort of vibe. What do you think of Demonic?
So Neil Blomkamp is a director that really interests me because, obviously I love District 9. I think it was one of the most original ideas to come about in a very long time, and the execution of it was absolutely gorgeous. It's amazing what he was able to pull off with a $30 million budget. And obviously he was a critical darling from that movie. A lot of people for the longest time thought that was going to be a Halo film, especially because it was produced by Peter Jackson. You can go ahead and listen to our coverage of District 9 on the feature presentation episode. But, he followed it up with Elysium, and I personally liked Elysium. I thought it was a solid science fiction action film, but it doesn't have the weight of or the gravitas that District 9 does, or the social political commentary. Actually, you know what? It does have social and political commentary. It just has too much of it, and it gets bogged down in it a lot. And the performances in that movie are kind of like wild. Like Jodie Foster's doing some weird thing in that movie. And then Chappie kind of like comes around, and Chappie is a bit of a mixed bag also. I don't hate Chappie. I just think that it's really uneven. It has moments of greatness, but it also, like, a lot of it is like kind of like wildly, just strangely uneven. So, I was really waiting for what Neil Blomkamp's, I guess, next big major film was, and I didn't think that it would be a horror film.
No, I think a lot of us thought it would be Alien, right?
Well, yeah, a lot of people thought it would be Alien. For the longest time, he was supposed to be making a movie called Alien Paradise. This was before Alien Covenant came out, so there was concept art that came out, and then Ridley Scott came out and said, "Hey, this is scrapped now. I'm making Alien Covenant."
Son of a bitch.
Sorry about that. Yeah, and that was kind of like a bit of a bummer because we got characters like Ripley back and Hicks. We got him back as well. And it just, kind of like ended up being like a little wah-wah kind of like situation. And then, he would go on to make short films, right? And then we didn't get a feature film until Demonic. So the trailer for this drops, and I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't love what I see because I didn't really want this from him, and I know that's more a complaint on, like, more of a hit on me rather than him. I kind of like need to manage my expectations a little bit because it's not a director's like a director is not supposed to make something that I guess appeals to every audience out there. A director should make something that appeals to them. So it's interesting to me that he made a horror film that deals a lot with virtual reality, because this idea has been used already in a Black Mirror episode called Playtest, which is really interesting because Playtest, which also stars Wyatt Russell, by the way, Kurt Russell's son. Playtest is an interesting episode of Black Mirror. It's a great episode, and it's also really terrifying. So I think Demonic, like, judging from the trailer, kind of like takes that concept and runs with it and amps it up into a feature film. So yeah, I don't know what to make of it really. Other than, I'm curious. I'm curious to see it.
Yeah, like, look, what I loved with Neil Blomkamp, especially with District 9 and Chappie, and I guess to some extent it applies to Elysium, is the style of it is like such a unique way of taking sci-fi, right? Like, most of the time when you think sci-fi, it's all flashy and pretty, and like I think around the time we're having like J.J. Abrams doing like lots of Star Trek stuff and where lens flares, and the future is clean. A lot of people, when they talk about sci-fi, it's like the future is clean, but it was dirty, it was gritty, it was grounded, and it felt somewhat realistic. Like the aliens and robots, they'd always be kind of like gritty and stuff. And so I've always interested in seeing how he does with this film. His take on virtual reality. First of all, I love the visual elements of the avatars. Like they're kind of real with people, but it's also got this like PS2 vibe to it. It's very creatively unique, and I love seeing stuff like that. But this trailer takes a weird turn, man. Like, I'm really on board at first. It's like you're doing this whole Matrix thing, and that's cool. And then halfway through, it sort of goes into like the real world, and it's like now there's a demon following her. Like, from what I can gather, it seems to be like she's on her deathbed, possessed by a demon. You go in there with virtual reality and you bring the demon out of her, and now it follows you or something. That's the vibe I'm getting. Maybe I'm wrong.
So it's a Nightmare on Elm Street.
Sort of, but with VR and stuff. And it just feels like two different movies sticky taped together. It feels like a demonic possession film, and then it's like VR. So I'm hoping what they do is I hope it feels more cohesive, more together. So I hope they don't just leave VR and then we just go into a generic demonic demon movie. I hope like that takes a part of it. A lot of times with VR, like the way virtual reality is depicted in films, especially in like the 90s and 80s, pretty laughable. Pretty laughable. So I'm hoping with Neil's like reputation, like, the way he normally approaches things feels a bit more grounded and realistic. So I hope he takes an approach to VR that feels, more believable than what a lot of other previous things have done. And I just hope it feels organic with the demon stuff. I'm very excited to see him tackle a new genre. Him doing a horror. I don't think he's done a horror film before. Maybe I'm mistaken. But that's exciting. And seeing a new type of sci-fi for him to take on, that's exciting as well. He's a good director, so I have faith in him. Do you know if he wrote this by any chance?
He did write it, yeah.
So he's a decent writer too. Like, I like his writing, so I'm on board. Who's this lead? Are you familiar with who she is?
Carly Pope. I've never seen her or anything before.
I'm getting I don't know why, but I'm getting good vibes about her. She seems to carry herself pretty well.
She's worked in TV mostly, from Suits, and Arrow.
I don't recognize
The
her.
Good Doctor.
That's cool. Yeah, like, look, I don't know why, but I got a good vibe about her. She also gives me like random. Did you ever play that game Life is Strange? She gives me Life is Strange vibes for some reason.
I know what you're talking about, but I've never played it.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I'm on board for this, but I'm going in cautiously because, like I said, it feels like two different movies, and virtual reality has in my opinion, a bad reputation in films, but I'm on board for Neil. So let's go. And I love that visual element for the VR. Next up, Army of Thieves, which I was like, at first, I felt like that The Office meme where it's like, it's the same picture with Army of the Dead. And then I found out, oh, it's a prequel to Army of the Dead. That explains a lot. Still feels kind of samey.
You knew this was coming, right?
I remember hearing about it, and I remember hearing it as a prequel, but for some reason I thought it was going to be a comic or something. I don't realize it was going to be a feature film for Netflix.
Yeah, so there's this prequel film, and there's also a animated, I guess, Army of the Dead series.
That's what I heard. So I thought this was that. I think. But yeah, what's your impressions with this one? I
could not be less interested in this.
Right?
I think like Army of the Dead, you can go back and listen to our review on it. And I don't think I was being pretty harsh. I don't love that movie. I really like Zack Snyder, and I appreciate what he was going for with that movie. I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity. Like, there were things in that movie that shouldn't have been in there, and there were things that should have. So it's wild to me that this character, Ludwig, gets his own movie. The story takes place 6 years before the events of Army of the Dead, during the beginning stages of the zombie outbreak, and follows Ludwig Dieter in his early days of safecracking as he is hired by a mysterious woman to pull off a heist with the help of a misfit crew of aspiring thieves. So it's the exact same story as Army of the Dead.
Yes.
Right? I mean, hired by a mysterious person to pull off a heist with the help of a misfit crew.
And this is exactly what I was talking about with that it's the same picture meme. It feels way too fucking similar. I know they're going for a different sort of way of presenting it, but on paper, it feels like the same plot pretty much.
Yeah, it feels like the same plot. I don't know. It seems too soon, weirdly. Like, I know that they are really trying to build this universe, and I guess their kind of like mantra is that you can't really build a universe by taking 4 or 5 years in between movies, but you absolutely can. I think if you waited at least a year, right, at least 1 year between this and Army of the Dead, then because I already feel like oversaturation. Like, I already feel like I'm over this fucking franchise, and this movie hasn't come out yet.
Came out like what, 2 months ago? Not even.
Yeah.
Way too soon. Give us this next year, maybe, or announce it next year.
Right? No, absolutely.
But also, don't give it to me because it looks shit. I'm sorry.
But I mean, something that's really interesting to me though, that kind of like stuck out to me, because I was like, Zach didn't direct this movie because it's way too soon. This is directed by, and I'm not going to try and attempt his full name, but the guy that actually plays the main lead, Ludwig, Matthias. He directed the film, which is kind of interesting because I think it's his first movie as well, directing. Which I don't know. That's up to you to decide if that bodes well or not. But I don't know. I think Netflix backed the wrong horse in terms of backing the Army of the Dead franchise. I know that Zack Snyder just inked a first look deal to direct a science fiction film. Basically, it was a Star Wars kind of like rip-off film that he's doing. Yeah, something like that. So, I know that Snyder is working with Netflix in the future. I just think that Netflix is doubling down on a franchise that's kind of died on arrival.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It reminds me a little bit of the Mummy reboot, where they were like building a franchise off it. But the difference is they made one film, it flopped, and they cancelled that. This actually reminds me of the whole Batman v Superman Superman.
I just want to clarify something. Sorry, Matt, real quick. I don't think Army of the Dead flopped, quote unquote flopped. I think it did really well for Netflix. But in terms of like critical, audience reaction and critical reaction, I don't think it did too well.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and here's the thing. I want to say, sorry, I'll finish my thought from before. This reminds me of the whole Batman v Superman Suicide Squad situation where they're making all these, in Justice League as well, they're making them all back to back. Then one got critically panned, and that affected Justice League and Suicide Squad, and that made them like want to edit in another direction. It feels like they made these two so close together that they couldn't change it, but maybe they would have. But to go into your point, I don't think Netflix care. At the end of the day, Netflix operate in streaming services, especially Netflix though, operate very different to the way studios work. See, like 20th Century Fox or Sony or whoever, what they do is they make a movie to distribute to cinemas, and they need more than just the opening weekend, so determines a lot. But after that, the cinemas, they make their money off, the following week. So they want to make a good movie that has good word of mouth. Netflix don't give a fuck about that shit. They care about the numbers they get into their platform and getting people to stick around. So Netflix...
I just want to say that you're 100% right, because very, very briefly, and I'm so sorry, I'm just kind of like interjecting with this just to kind of like reinforce your point. So this week, Masters of the Universe Revelation came out, which is Kevin Smith's TV show. And in the lead up to that, there was rumors that He-Man would be sidelined in the show. And Smith was very much like, no, this is definitely going to be a He-Man show. And the show comes out, and spoiler alert, by the way, He-Man is kind of sidelined after the first episode. So Netflix's release schedule for this is they're releasing it in two kind of like chunks. So the first 5 episode dropped, and then they're going to do another 5 episodes, which completes the season. So in this first 5 episode arc, another character, Tila, who is a female, takes over, and this is catching a lot of backlash on Twitter. So I'm listening to the most recent Fat Man Beyond episode, and Smith's talking about like, people out there are just like absolutely trashing me, and I understand, but at no point, like, people need to understand that this story is not done. This is a 10-part series. You've only seen 5 episodes. The story is absolutely not done. And he's like, by the way, Netflix, I was actually scared too, because I went up to Netflix and I was like, hey, is this really going to hurt us? There's a lot of negative backlash because it got review bombed on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. And Netflix says absolutely not. This is about 10,000 people out of the millions of people who subscribe to the subscribe to the thing, and who the millions of people who actually stream the show. So this is a drop in the bucket. We don't care about this. We're going to go ahead and go full steam ahead. Yeah, like Netflix determine their metrics for success, and they've never really gone public about it fully, but there's been a lot of things I've leaked through and people have talked about it. But what is considered, okay, take 2. Clip. What they consider to be a successful project is determined by different variables than a theatrical release film. They care about watch time. That's a big thing. They care about online buzz. And so sometimes a bad film is a good thing for them, because if people start talking about it online, they like that. It means people are going to watch it. It means people are going to stay on the platform. They're not making films to make money. They're making films to keep you subscribed. And that's part of the reason why they make so many films too, because they're sick of relying on licensing issues with shows they don't own. That's why I think their goal, last year, the year before, was to up their content like 50% owned by Netflix or something. And I think they've either achieved that or they're close to that or something. So for them, I can't remember why we started talking about this. Oh, Army of the Dead, right. So for them at the time, it's a win-win because there's so much buzz around Zack Snyder. Everyone's going to watch whatever the fuck he does. He could shit in a bucket, record it, and everyone would watch it. And we'd do 3-hour podcasts critiquing his shit. So for them, it's like, we don't care if he makes a bad movie. We care that he makes a movie and it's on our platform, because then everyone's going to stick up. People who are big fans of Zack, they're going to subscribe so they can see it and all that shit. So for them to get a Zack Snyder universe, it's probably a big deal. They're going to greenlight a lot of shit. Now, if it flops and people aren't interested in seeing sequels,
then they might start caring. But if Army of Thieves does good in terms of clicks or whatever's, if he has enough Easter eggs that get people talking, they might make another one. Something to say as well with Netflix's shows, they actually said, this is probably the biggest telltale, they very rarely will make a show that goes past 3 seasons because their metrics and analytics apparently says a lot of people stop watching after 3 seasons for a lot of shows. I'm not talking about nerds like you and me. I'm talking about like the average person. They lose interest. They want to get something new. So not many Netflix shows hit season 5. On most shows on network television aim for 5 seasons because after 5 seasons, you renegotiate the contract. And then if it's really good, then they'll go forward. That's why you see a lot of network shows end at season 5 or season 6. But on Netflix, especially in the last few years, after season 2, 3, if you're not many shows get to season 4, that's when they put on the chopping block. And sadly, it's all I really got to say about this show, man. Army of Thieves, they got a character who I could tell they were trying to push in Army of the Dead, but I wasn't really into him. I do like Nathalie Emmanuel from, she's in Fast and Furious movies. Is it Natalie? It's got a H in it.
It's pronounced Natalie.
Okay. Yeah, I find she's kind of charismatic, so yeah. They seem to cut this a bit more comedically. I guess I'll watch it, which means fucking Netflix wins in the end. But yeah, not too interested. Would you like to move on?
Let's move on.
What do you reckon about Jackass Forever? Not a lot to say.
Oh boy. I'm keen. I am keen because I love these movies. Yeah, look, I haven't been a fan of these for the longest time. Like a lot of people have been fans of these movies, and the TV show going way, way back. But I fell in love with this franchise from Jackass 3, because that's the first one I saw in the cinema, or Jackass 3D rather. And the 3D was awesome in that movie.
It was,
and it had no right to be, but it absolutely was.
They also had the slow-mo in that film as well, which really added to it. Yeah,
the slow motion looked awesome. They filmed with a high-speed camera. But like, I really like the chemistry between the guys. It feels really genuine, like they're actually good friends. Jeff Tremaine is back to direct this movie, so I'm hoping that, it'll be similar vibes. And, there's been some, behind the scenes drama, right? With mostly with Bam, and like, him not, I don't know. I don't want to go into it, but like, there's been some behind the scenes bullshit happening with this one. And I think, given the title, given the ages, I think it's reasonable to expect that this is the last one. Steve-O as well. I've listened to a podcast with him. I think it was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he's talking about how much he's kind of like reformed since the last film. So he was talking about like how he
got sober.
Was very much
stuff, right?
He got sober. Yeah, he was very much into drugs and drinking, and he got sober. And it's really, really interesting to listen to someone as crazy as Steve-O kind of like find himself. So I'm really happy that this is coming out. It looks like a ton of fun. It looks absolutely retarded, which I'm way more down for. It looks like Chris Pontius is about to get eaten by a bear. So yeah, man, sign me up for this. I'm absolutely in.
Yeah, something I like to point out, obviously the chemistry, the boys are back. That's amazing. I like the fact that they're but they're bringing some of like the new age talent. I think I'm really happy to see Eric Andre, that he's in this film. Maybe it's just for a scene. I don't know.
I kind of can't stand him, so I don't really know about that.
Look, I'm not his diehard fan. I don't really like a Sorry Stamp special on Netflix. Wasn't a fan of that, but I really did like Bad Trip, and I think he is part of a dying breed of one of the only ones who've tried to take the Jackass formula, do something original with it, and be successful. Like, there's been a lot of Jackass ripoffs that have been forgotten to time. And of course, like, his projects are a little bit different. Sometimes they're just too weird for my taste. But I think it's cool to see him there. And also, I got a little bit of a chuckle just as a fan seeing Machine Gun Kelly in a clip. I feel like that guy's shout outs to his agent. Anything that's even remotely punk rock, he's been attached to and stuff. So to see him in this, it's just like, and he's been in this. He just had a song in Tony Hawk remake. It's just like there's been a checklist of everything that's like pop punk or even slightly related. He's just been ticking as they goes along. Being part of Jackass.
While you're singling people out, I'm really excited to see that Spike Jonze is back for this because how do you win an Oscar for best writing for Her, the movie Her, and also star in Jackass? Like, it's great. I love it.
It's insane. So I love that. I have a hope. I have a dream. It's never going to happen, but this is how I hope the Jackass movie ends, or something happens near the end, or something. I want there to be a scene where Bam walks at home. There's like a surprise, whatever. Everyone's there and like, hey, we know we've been shitty to you. Sorry, you thought you weren't going to be in the movie. You get to punch all of us in the face or kick us in the balls one by one. And then you get to be in like the next scene or something. And like just some big thing. I would love if somehow they could pull out nostalgia and do some big emotional ending or something. It's not going to fucking happen. It's Jackass. But I'd love if they could do that. And if they could just somehow wiggle Bam in there, even in a small way, just even show us a photo of Bam or something. Because he was like one of, a lot of people's favorites. It's really sad to know he's not going to be in this. And he did feel like we were missing something. Like all those scenes with him with snakes were so iconic and shit in the previous ones. But yeah, this is going to be a ton of fun. I'm really excited for Jackass.
Bam not in this? Is that right?
From my understanding, and I hope I'm wrong, but they said because of his drug use and all that stuff, they said he won't be in the film. Like he got edged out by not by the Jackass team.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it was like the higher ups, like the studio thought he would cause trouble or something. But at the same time, it just like there's so many drug addicts in Hollywood who have hugely successful careers. And
it's interesting because this is going to be so. There's no Bam, and obviously there's no Ryan Dunn, which is interesting.
It's gonna, I feel like they're gonna be trying to find ways to fill that hole, and maybe that's what these new faces are for. I got the vibe. I think I read this somewhere a long, long time ago. Maybe I'm making shit up, but that we're going to do something about passing on the torch to like a new generation of jackasses or something. Looking at this trailer, I don't see that. I think it would be smart. That way you can still have like pranks and that. Or maybe you know what? Maybe I read that about Action Point. I'm not sure. But yeah, regardless, I just want to see John Knoxville get fucked up and Steve-O as well. That'd be great. Bro. Normally we don't add second trailers, although lately it's been changing. But I knew you'd want to talk about this. What do you think of Dune? Dune trailer 2.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited, man. So I think if you go back and listen to our coverage of that first trailer, I was slightly disappointed because they kind of went with licensed music, and I really, really wanted to hear Hans Zimmer's score. And goddamn, did we get his score in this trailer?
It's great.
It sounds fucking badass, man. And I kind of wanted to ask you because you were kind of half sold on that first trailer. You weren't too sure about it because it was very teasery. There wasn't that much shown in it. So now that we've got this main trailer, they're calling it, I kind of wanted to see where you stand in terms of like what your excitement is in this, because I've run through the story with you very briefly, but in terms of the visuals, in terms of what we're expecting story wise, where are you falling on this? And then I'll kind of like get into my thoughts.
Oh man, like something I remember saying in the last time we talked about Dune is, and it's doubled down here, is it feels like it's such a fresh take. I don't know if this is what the original story felt like, or it's the way it's being directed, or what it is. But overall, as a project, it's such a fresh take on space operas, right? Like we've seen 100 Star Wars ripoffs. hell, even Guardians of the Galaxy feels very Star Wars. But this, it's like those elements are still there. There are spaceships, there are planets, there's a war.
There's an
going
element
on.
of epic to it, right?
Well,
that Guardians doesn't have.
Yeah, it's because I was gonna say it's kind of like, I think I might have said this before, but it's kind of like Star Wars meets like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or something. Yeah. It's very like, it's got this extra element of epic. It's got a very unique way of combat, which is what actually gets me the most excited. Like, I've said this for years. It's like the lightsaber is such an iconic way to fight. The only other franchises I ever think of that come up with unique ways for combat is maybe The Matrix, maybe, but even then it's just slow-mo shit. And then maybe Dragon Ball Z. I can't think of anything else that feels like a unique of combat. Like, sure, it's still suits and shit, but the way you were explaining that energy suit or whatever before, I'm just like, that sounds cool. And we don't see a lot of it here, but there is that war scene at the end, which got me super hype. That seems really cool. I love the aesthetic here. I'm loving Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, and I like this unique look on Dave Bautista. The story seems a lot more, I'm seeing a lot more of it now, and I can really feel the scale. The scale feels really big. I just really love, and I still have trouble finding the words for it, but the sophistication that they take to what could be considered a dumb sci-fi action film. And it's not dumb. That's what I love. I love how not dumb it is. Because I've seen clips of like the 80s attempt, and that feels like a dumb 80s action film, This just feels so unique and so much love and care and money put into it. And that's what I want when I go to the cinema, especially see something like this. I want to see something unique and exciting and grand. I think grand is one of the best ways to describe this. Do you know when I can't wait to see this. It looks really good. But you're a big fan of Dune. What has got you extra excited about this trailer?
Yeah. I am a big fan of Dune. I'm actually, funnily enough, I'm halfway through the book. This has inspired me to pick up the book again, because I always do this. I always drop off in the middle of reading books. But yeah, I've been reading it pretty much every day in lockdown, and I'm absolutely loving it. I love the intrigue. I love the Game of Thrones elements of it. It's very mystical. So this trailer comes out, and the first thing that I'm kind of like taking note of is the score, because Hans Zimmer specifically turned down working on Tenet to work on this movie.
That's a big call. That's probably a tough choice, right?
How does one turn down Christopher Nolan? I was really, really excited to hear it, and it sounds amazing. There are 2 tracks out right now on Spotify that he released early that also sound really, really awesome. But everyone in this looks like they're delivering great, great performances. Oscar Isaac and Timothée Chalamet in particular.
Yeah.
But I love that we also get a look at Stellan Skarsgård, who plays Baron Harkonnen. He's that kind of like fat, kind of like that. There's one shot of him where he's being raised. He's being they use these things called suspensors, and basically he's too fat and large to support himself. So because that's. You're kind of like telling us who he is as a person. He is someone who is so grandiose and so spoiled and so used to getting what he wants.
It should also be mentioned, like in Roman times, that was a sign of superiority. Being right. That fat was like a sign of, I guess you'd say privilege or something, because you were so taken care of. You never had to do anything. People fed you grapes and shit. I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of the influence.
No, absolutely. And there are a lot of secrets that this trailer is hiding. There is something that happens in the book very early on, and then there are things that happen in the book a little later on. that this trailer is really, really trying hard to hide. I can't wait for audiences to get in there and witness this movie because, like you said, it is going to be grand. It's absolutely a cinema movie. I'm really hoping that we're out of lockdown by the time this comes out in October. But yeah, it's absolutely a cinema movie. It's Denis Villeneuve. I mean, the guy has not made a missed movie. Blade Runner 2049 is an absolute masterpiece, and this is kind of something that worries me about it is because not a lot of people went to go see 2049. It was, I still call it to this day the most expensive art film. It's a $200 million epic, but at the same time, it is a very deep and thinking man's film, right? And Dune is likely going to lean a lot more into action, but at the same time, it is still a thinking man's film. It is a heavy science fiction film. And interestingly, this is also part 1 of 2. So people have seen the first 10 minutes of this movie. Apparently, I think it played before, it might have been Suicide Squad or something, the advanced screenings or whatever. But the title, when the title comes up, it actually says Dune: Part 1.
Right. So
this is, the Dune is the title for promotional purposes, but the actual movie's title is Dune Part 1. So I'm curious to see whether people turn up for this, whether this is able to, earn back enough money to justify a sequel, because it's really going to be a bummer if we get to half of this story and we won't be able to see Villeneuve's, I guess, complete vision.
Can I ask, you said the book's hiding a big secret. I'm just going to ask for a vague, just give me a yes or no. Skip 30 seconds if you think this could be a spoiler, but after I ask the question, but do you think we could be expecting a Scream Drew Barrymore situation in the opening act?
In terms of Timothée Chalamet dying?
Oh, I didn't say who it was going to be. I just said, someone.
Did you mean like?
You said you said there might be a twist that we're not seeing.
Yeah. So it is related to someone's death. But that's all I'm going to say. It's not Timothée Chalamet.
Okay. All good.
But I mean, like Drew Barrymore, that's kind of a different situation because she was the biggest star in that movie.
Yeah,
and this is a movie filled with stars.
Yeah, what I find interesting with that is like they advertise if she's the main character, and then they knocked her off in the first 15 minutes. Sort of like the only other.
That's not what happens.
Yeah, okay. The only other comparison to that is like maybe Bryan Cranston in Godzilla 2014, but he still at least had 20 minutes or so.
Right.
I have one slight criticism, and it's the slightest thing ever, but there's a shot when he's in the golden suit and the visor lifts off. The CGI, and it's such a trailer, all the CGI and all this looks fucking incredible, but that one shot, it just looks a little too fake for me. I'm hoping they fix that up somehow. I think very clearly he wasn't in the suit. And I think Iron Man has had that problem before as well, but it stands out to me so much here.
If you watch that shot, it's like, this is, besides the point.
Yeah.
But you'll see a giant sandworm in the background, and like they don't focus on it. It's just something that's like a nice little touch because it's only there if you're kind of like looking for it. But as the visor comes up, you just see this giant fucking sandworm, and I can't wait. I'm so excited for this movie.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Is there anything else to talk about this before we move on?
No, that's it, man.
I thought that'd go for 5 hours, so that's actually pretty good.
Go out and support this movie because I really want to see a sequel.
Awesome. I will say, just because we forgot to mention earlier, the soundtrack amazing in this Dune trailer, but also I really like the soundtrack in the Demonic trailer as well. I thought it was like really unique and had a cool vibe to it. Very different vibe, obviously, but yeah. Look, we come to our last trailer, and we have no reviews, so this could be one of the last things we talk about in upcoming attractions, which is kind of makes me wish I ended on Dune, but fuck it. The Last Duel. What do you reckon of the Last Duel trailer?
I can't believe we're ending upcoming attractions on a Ridley Scott movie because
you hate Ridley Scott.
It's not that I hate Ridley Scott. It's just I think it's just weirdly overrated. But man, am I fucking excited for this movie. This is based on a book, which is apparently based on real events. So the Last Duel mostly got me interested from Ridley Scott because, again, a notable director. But then I saw the cast. Matt Damon, Adam Driver, Ben Affleck. Boom. Those three, fucking awesome. And not only that, but Ben Affleck and Matt Damon wrote the script.
I didn't realize Ben Affleck was involved. That's interesting.
So, yeah, this is the first time they've worked together on a script after Good Will Hunting, which they won an Oscar for.
Wow.
And this is, again, based on a real story. So let me read this. In 14th century France, Marguerite, I'm going to fuck up some names here because they're French. Marguerite de Bouville claims she's been raped by her husband's best friend. Her husband, Knight Jean de Carreguet, challenges his friend and squire, Jacques Legris, to trial by combat. It is the last legally sanctioned duel in France's history. That gives me a fucking boner.
So it's literally the last duel. Interesting.
It's literally the last duel in France. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I can't wait. I'm really excited for this, man. Adam Driver's choices in terms of like what films he takes are just top notch. Like the guy is just choosing amazing. Did you know, by the way, that Adam Driver is an ex-Marine?
I've heard that before, and there's a part of me that's
awesome.
like, really? But then there's another part of me that's like, I buy it. Like,
I buy it too.
I kind of get that. I kind of get that with him.
And I was watching a round table, and it was the year that he was nominated for Marriage Story. So the round table is full of like legends like Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci, and these massive actors that he was also nominated with. And the I guess the question asker guy, the host, asked him, so how did you pivot into films after becoming after coming back from the Marines?
Good question.
And he's like, if anything, being like working in film is very much like being part of the military. You have a commander who gives you orders, gives you directions, and you just need to follow them. You need to follow them to a T, and you just need to give them the best kind of service that you can. And I'm just like, man, that is such a simple and effective way of looking at things. I really appreciate it.
Film school, I had a teacher who compared to the military a lot, film to the military a lot. And I'm surprised hearing that from him, I guess, because I feel like acting is, out of all the roles, probably the least military-like. But the way you run a set, it's really military. They even use like the 24-hour clock like the military do. There's heads of departments who are basically commanders, and then you've got the hierarchy there. You don't want to be questioning orders because otherwise the whole battalion would fall apart. Loyalty, being punctual, yeah, that's true. Have we ever seen Adam Driver in a film like this that's period based? I don't think we have we?
That's historical. Give me a sec. I can't think of anything off by heart.
Yeah, same.
Give me a sec, I'll have a look.
But watching this, I was like, oh, he's so suited for this. I feel like he would. I'm surprised I haven't seen him in more stuff like this. There's something about him where it's like he looks like he could belong there.
Black Klansman, but that's not the kind of period piece you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, like historical. Yeah. How do you feel about Ridley Scott? I know, obviously he did Gladiator a long time ago, but you're not the biggest fan of Ridley Scott sometimes. How do you feel about this one?
Ridley Scott's choices sometimes baffle me. Sometimes his movies have the best trailers, like The Counselor, and the movies just end up kind of like not being very interesting. His pacing is a little wild, but the man is 83 years old. Like the guy's been working in the system for so long, but like,
and
there
consistently,
are times when,
like he's always got stuff
and
going
consistently.
On.
Absolutely. And like, but there are times when he knocks out a banger, especially, like in the 2020s or 20 teens, whatever. All the Money in the World was, I think, the last movie that I really liked of his. That was obviously dealing with a lot of things in terms of Kevin Spacey and replacing him with Christopher Plummer. So, like he is a hit or miss director for me, but the guy knows, period. Like the guy, like, you know, look at Gladiator, look at Kingdom of Heaven. Like, you know, the guy he knows what he's doing. But like what interests me more is that so Adam Driver is working on 2 films simultaneously with Ridley Scott. The other film also slated to come out next year, sometime next year, is House of Gucci with Lady Gaga. So that obviously
will be a very different
the
film.
Events and murder of
well.
Gucci. So you know, I'm interested to see how Ridley Scott goes, because I think Scorsese is currently killing it right now as the more elderly director. But I'm keen to see what Ridley Scott does.
Going for a showdown. Look, I don't have much else to say. I want to say, just as an editor myself, I really like how this trailer's cut. I found it very interesting the way they were using like the crosses and sort of like masking out parts of the shots. Very artistic, I don't know if I can think of any examples of.
I didn't love that. I didn't love that on my phone, but then I thought about how that would look on a cinema screen, and I was like, okay, that'll look pretty bad, to be honest.
Yeah, like, look, I don't know if I fully get it. Like I guess the religious element's going to take a big part of it, with the crosses and stuff. Just for me, it's like, I'm not saying it's like amazing, it's revolutionary, but it's different and it's unique. And with trailers, a lot of them can get, oh wait, maybe they're not crosses, maybe they're meant to be swords. I think they're crucifixes. Anyways, it's hard to stand out sometimes, and I think that's rather interesting. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot else to say about this one. So I'm sorry.
You're not a big period piece guy, right?
It's true, but I'm interested in this one. I don't know what's making me interested. I think it's the cast. I think I like Ridley Scott. Like, I haven't seen every film of his, and I know they're not all big hits, but I think he's pretty good, and I'm digging the cast. I do wonder how they're going to tackle the RAPE subject. I feel like in this day and times, like, I couldn't help but watching this and just going, oh, so it's a story about a woman who gets abused, and then the men fight. It feels like it's, in this day and age, you don't want to do a story where it's kind of like the man's the white knight. I guess if you're going to do a white knight story, it's going to be a period piece, but I feel like I hope I don't know how they're going to handle it. I'm not saying that's not a topic you can't touch, but yeah, I can imagine some BuzzFeed articles going out about it if they don't handle it the right way. But that's all I'll say about that. Ridley Scott does do some fun films though, so I'm looking forward to that. I hope there's good choreography of the sword fights, and yeah, I'm keen to see Adam Driver in more historical films. Weirdly enough, I think he just really suits that vibe. Zoheb, we should have done an MDF game or something to close this off, but we haven't done that in a while. I feel like we're ending on a bit of an anticlimactic pace, but that's okay. We got no reviews this week. We would have had otherwise, guys. Probably would have talked about Old. Probably would have talked about Space Jam: A New Legacy. I'm hearing, I'm not surprised to hear that's getting pretty shitty reviews. They look pretty disappointing. But thank you so much for joining us here in Midnight Double Feature. I'm not sure how to wrap this one up, but it's been a blast. I've had so much fun. If you want to check out upcoming attractions podcasts on Facebook, Upcoming Attractions Pod on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. You're going to have to look for that because you can't get a URL until you have 100 subscribers. And it'll be, expect an episode. I think our first episode will come out in about 2 weeks. It should be bi-weekly, kind of like how this was. After a while, maybe we'll go weekly, depending on the workflows. I'm still figuring all that stuff out. So there's a lot of work to starting up a podcast. We'll figure out artwork. There's a whole bunch of other stuff as well behind the scenes. But yeah, if you've been enjoying this episode, a lot more to come. Yeah. Goodbye, Midnight Double Feature. That feels weird to say. Not goodbye. I'm sure I'll come back as a guest, and I'm still sort of in the team in some regard. I'm still, I'm gonna be in the after party post and shit. But yeah, Zoheb, I'm not sure how to wrap this up. How should we wrap this up? Do you want to plug some shit?
Not necessarily. I don't really plug anything anymore. So like I said earlier in the episode, when we were doing a half an hour dick sucking, like I think this is not goodbye, because again you are still a part of the Midnight Double Feature. It's just upcoming attractions is spinning off into its own show that is not a part of Midnight Double Feature, and the only reason that it's not a part of Midnight Double Feature is because how do I say this without sounding like an ass? I'm not going to be on a lot of those episodes. It's not going to be me. It's going to be yourself and whoever you decide to bring aboard. So, that is, you're going to take that's taking an opportunity to rebuild something from the ground up, and hopefully make it your own, while also having strands of what made upcoming attractions great here. So this has been a lot of fun. It's been a great time laughing. We've had a lot of memories. Like Dominic Toretto, for one.
George Lucas paid us a visit once. Yep.
George Lucas paid us a visit. Dominic Toretto still needs to return my singlets because they're still missing. And I don't have any Coronas left. But this has been a lot of fun.
We also we hung out with our good friends Venom and the Meg quite a lot.
Yeah, well,
Zoheb went through a variety of amazing nicknames from Lil Z and so many others that I'm sure you're going to miss. So many memories.
Yeah, I mean, but look, the good thing about podcasts is that they're recorded and they're not going anywhere. They're always going to live here on this feed on Midnight Double Feature. So if you do want to go back and re-listen. By the way, I actually was re-listening to an episode just recently. So I'm not sure if you've noticed. So on Stan, here in Australia, the Stan streaming service, they added the 2007 Rob Zombie Halloween film, which I've never seen. So I watched it. And while I was watching it, I was like, man, I kind of wanted to see like what I said about the 2018 Halloween film. And, I played our review of it. I think it was like episode 58 or something, way back in 2018. It was October 2018. And you and I started kind of arguing a little bit because we used to argue all the time. And, it was just kind of like, Matt, you don't understand the character, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, a horror movie should be this, a horror movie should be that. And I'm just like, that's not the character. So it's funny that, that those situations, that those conversations happened the way they did. And again, it's just the fact that we're able to look back on those, them being a little bit of a time capsule as to where we were, as people, in 2018 October. It's just kind of one of those things. There's a part of me that is regretful that we are shuttering this portion of the podcast, but most of me is excited. Most of me is excited that this is, a new iteration for upcoming attractions and Midnight Double Feature, so I think, it's going to benefit both podcasts and and everyone involved massively.
100%. And I'm really excited to see what you guys continue to do. Like I said, feature presentations, you and Colin have always been the lifeblood of the show anyways. So I think that'll continue to do amazingly great. You've always been great at capturing really great interviews as well. And my plans are to do something a little bit different, which I'm really excited to reveal as well. Yeah, man. Look, Dan, thank you so much for all these great chats and and everything. It's been amazing to see how we've just grown as people over the years. It's crazy. It's the first video recorded upcoming attraction. So the Patreon listeners at the Green Room will be able to see what it looks like. It hasn't always looked like this. When we started, we were living real west in Western Sydney. And we were we lived 5 minutes from each other. A lot of those early episodes were recorded together in the same room. We probably did at least 30 to 50 like that, maybe. Or maybe not 50, but we did a lot. Sometimes it's around the same microphone with our lips so close to touching. Especially that Star Wars one. We were so tight in there. And now, since then, we've both moved out of our homes. We're living with our girlfriends in very different suburbs we did before.
We've had sex with girls.
Believe it or not, I had it for the first time last week. Nah, it's a little overrated, to be honest. Look, it's been fantastic. So I'm going to say it for the last time. Thank you, everybody, for everything. I hope to see you on this next venture. If you don't know me and you want to stay up to date with me, find me at Vela Matt on Instagram, Matt Vela on Facebook. Upcoming attractions where everything else will be. And for the last time in Double Feature, I'm going to say it one last time. Laters.